Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first ever Today's Booze News. That's a working title for now. I couldn't think of anything better than Today's Booze News. If you can think of something better than Today's Booze News, great. Suggestions are welcome in the comments below. And just to let you know, the reason it's Today's Booze News and not the weekly Booze News or monthly Booze News is it's actually a lot harder than I thought it would be to do this stuff, and I don't know how regularly I'm going to be able to do it. Okay, but let's get started in the very first thing we've ever done. Now, first up, let's talk about the recently released World's 100 Most Influential list. This is a list released by Drinks International's Hamish Smith. He has brought together a collection of industry commentators from 60 cities around the world. The panel of 102 people is made up of 59% media, 14% brand representatives, 9% consultants, 9% event organizers, 5% educators, and 4% campaigners. It's a mouthful. Those commentators were asked to list their top 10 most influential bar figures driving positive change in the global bar industry. There was no criteria for this except that the candidates would need to be made up of those who have innovated and pushed the industry forward, setting the standard globally and inspiring others around them, and those who have addressed injustices in the bar industry using their influence to effect positive change. A maximum of 3 of their 10 votes could be used for bar figures in their own city, and a maximum of 5 could come from their country. This means that at least 50% of the votes had to come from internationally recognized bar figures. They couldn't vote for themselves or anyone they work with or have an interest in. I'm guessing they also did this unpaid. They must have done it for free because effectively the guy putting the list together that had recruited them was on the list. So if they were being paid, then surely they'd be working with that guy and, it would be a conflict of interest. So it's more of a charitable venture on their part. Kudos to them. It comes as no surprise that Monica Berg topped the list this year. This is very much well deserved. Congratulations, Monica. Monica has what you would hope anyone topping a list like this would have: a strong moral compass. And that is exactly what we need from our leaders. After receiving this accolade, Monica posted on social media, "It feels a bit ironic to be named the most influential person in the bar industry, when in fact I've never felt more voiceless than I have in the last 6 months." Monica, we love you. We're all very proud of you, and we're listening, even if other people aren't listening, keep doing what you're doing. You're an inspiration. Rounding out the top 10 are Alex Cretenia, Ryan Chetty, Ivy Mix, David Wondrich, Lynette Marrero, Renato Giovannoni, Shingo Gokan, Karina Soto Velasquez, and Ian Burrell. I hope I got that right.
Dude, you've got it all wrong.
Now, if you've glanced across the list and thought, hang on, there's some super influential people missing from this list, as I have.
What?
Remember, none of the selection committee are bartenders. And they were specifically asked to look for people pushing the industry forward globally and addressing injustices and using their influence to effect positive change. With that in mind, when you look at the list again, it'll either make perfect sense to you, or you could even be more confused by a couple of the entries on that list. It's up to you to figure that out. But effectively, they had a tight kind of brief for it. So fill that brief if you want to be on that list, I guess. Overall, for me, my favorite thing about this year's list is that Dave Broom has jumped 13 places on the list to number 15, despite actually saying last year, firstly, thank you, I'm honored, but I also wonder if there's the constant need to grade and measure worthiness, be it liquid venues or a person. Do we need that? He I'm paraphrasing here, but he goes on to say basically, we're all important. Here's to all of us. And the message, he said, I'd never do it justice, even if I was able to read it word for word. If you want to read it, follow Dave on his Instagram handle at Dave Wasabi and check out what he did say. You should be able to scroll down and find it. He's a legend. And the fact that he jumped up the list after kind of saying, do we even need the list, is huge. And then he didn't quite jump up the list as much as Hamish did, the guy who'd come up with the idea for the list. But I mean, if you're writing the list of who's the most influential people in the world, then surely you're the most influential if the list is actually going to create more influence for the people who are on the list. So you're just going to keep jumping up the list, right? Also, kudos to Eddie from Cocktails for You for making it onto the list. I mean, he's got 1.5 million followers on Facebook. He should have been on the list last year, but this year, he's on the list. Enough with this list. Let's talk about another list, one that's centered around whiskey. Now, Jim Murray's Whiskey Bible for 2021, or is it 2020? I can't remember. I don't buy Jim Murray's Whiskey Bible. Has been released, and in my honest opinion, I wouldn't buy it if I was being paid £1,000 to do so. I wouldn't buy it if I was being paid £1,000 for every copy that I buy. If I want to hear an opinion on whiskey, I'll ask a friend or I'll ask a bartender at a bar. If that's how you like to get your recommendations from someone who isn't being paid to give them, I guess, here's a recommendation. Buy this. It's delicious. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus on it. Hello, camera. If you can read that, great. If you can't, this is Teeling Whiskey's Pineapple Rum Cask. I never thought that would happen, an Irish whiskey with a pineapple rum cask, but I mean, I didn't ask for it, but thank you. Thank you very much, Teeling Whiskey. This stuff is delicious, and I'm going to have a little taste. I'm going to have my... Oh, yeah, look at that. Right, where was I? Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's like a match made in heaven. Okay, right, where was I? Yeah, you know, there's a recommendation that didn't come from some sleazy weirdo, and the aftertaste isn't, why did I spend money on his book? It's more like, oh, I got that recommendation for free, as did the brand. Okay. I'm getting distracted. Get back to it. So Jim Murray has come under fire for his most recent book. From a few actual whiskey writers, he's come under fire for his use of language and his misogynistic approach to women. Now, I don't really need to give my opinion. I've already kind of put it across. But I don't need to give my opinion on his writing. I haven't read his books, but unfortunately, a lot of people do. Now, one of the people that read his books is Becky Paskin, who has taken a particular dislike to his attitude. And in a recent social media post, she shared some of his writing. Now, this is what she said. So I've taken it from her. In the 2021 edition, there are 34 references to whiskey being sexy and many more crudely comparing drinking whiskey to having sex with women. 34 plus. That's insane. Anyway, for example, Penderyn is made by an all-female team of distillers and blenders, yet this is how he refers to their whiskey. If this was a woman, I'd want to make love to it every night and in the morning and the afternoon, and if I could find the time and the energy. Like, this is on Penderyn Celt. And again, this celebrates maltiness in the same way a sex addict revels in a threesome on Penderyn Single Cask. Is that even necessary? Here's another one. So, Canadian Club Chronicles Water of Windsor, he's described as, have I had this much fun with a sexy 41-year-old Canadian before? Well, yes, I have. But it was a few years back now, and it wasn't a whiskey. Was the fun we had better? Probably not. I think the reason the fun wasn't better. Okay, I'm not gonna comment on a person. I'm gonna maybe I'll read one more. If whiskey could be sexed, this would be a woman. Every time I encounter Morangi Artisan, it pops up with a new look, a different perfume, and a different mood. It appears not to be able to make up its mind, but does it know how to pout, seduce, and win your heart? Oh yes. Like, imagine reading out 34 of these. How are people buying this book? Anyway, Becky went on to say, much of the industry has been working hard to change whiskey's reputation as a man's drink, but condoning, even celebrating a book that contains language like this erases much of that progress and allows objectification of women in whiskey. She's absolutely right. She's not alone. It wasn't just her, but Felipe Schreiberg, I think his name was, in an article for Forbes entitled Sexism in Whiskey, Why You Shouldn't Read Jim Murray's Whiskey Bible. I'm pretty sure that was the title. Said despite his large influence, he is unfortunately a flawed ambassador for whiskey. His reviews, scores, and comments do not deserve to be promoted by the industry. It's high time for consumers and especially brands to move on. I personally shared these things on my social media, and I was given the question, has anyone asked Jim Murray to hear his side of the story? Well, as far as I'm concerned, Jim, if you're watching this or someone has shared it with you, I will interview you. Not at my home though, somewhere where my wife doesn't have the displeasure of running into you, or she doesn't even have there's not the slightest chance of that happening. Now, you might be asking yourself, why is Dean making a sorry attempt at a news show? Well, I thought to myself, what would I like to see if I was watching someone else's channel? And I wanted to hear from my friends around the world on a regular occasion. That's why I started doing more and more of the live streams, because as I work with my friends around the world on these live streams, I feel like we're connecting and we're catching up. So here goes, taking on some correspondence information from friends around the world. First up, Arijit, the Prince of India, Bose, coming to you straight out of India.
Hey guys, welcome to the Dean Callan show. I'm in Delhi reporting in from the subcontinent. Things are bad, cases are high, but there are small little glimmers of hope here and there. So the silver lining today is the bars in Delhi are finally opening up. I am at one of my favorite ones called Sideka, which made it to the Asia Top 50 list, and they're a proper bar. We've waited a long time to have things like this in India. I've been having a tequila hanky-panky, so I am fairly inebriated, and in case I miss beats, please do excuse me. Overall, India is still a little bit messy. Things are getting back on track, and things, as and when they're opening up, I'll keep informing you. But when things open up and you guys do come to India, you gotta visit Sidekar in Delhi. It's a supremely good bar. The bar food is really good, which is something super interesting. So it's good to enjoy all of that. I was talking to Dean and the rest of the guys. There is that theory that the reason the government opened it is because they want to make the money on the license, and as soon as they get it, they will probably blame COVID and shut things down again. But for whatever it's worth, the bar guys here are trudging on, they're soldiering on and opening the places up. And people can get drinks as long as you've got your mask, you're distant, everyone's testing you for temperature. So it's good. I think the story now is we gotta live with this shit. It is what it is, and figure out how to exist through it. But I personally believe humans are usually super resilient, and as and when things slowly subside, we will get back to normal. I know things are difficult for every one of you. Keep the faith. Stay hopeful. I mean, that's pretty much all I can say as of now. And I mean, I know a lot of you guys don't come to India, but the scene's getting super interesting. So if you find time, come in, bartend here, or just, I moved to Goa, so visit me there. It's a nice, beautiful beach town, super cheap. A lot of distilleries there. We are working on a lot of craft things, craft spirits and craft beers there. The food is brilliant, and it's super peaceful. So if you want to reset your minds and heads after all of this over, definitely come here. You'll save a shit ton of money. Till next time, see you guys. Be safe and remember, come to Sidecar when you're in Delhi.
Thank you, Arijit. Zipping across the pond to the west coast of USA and Mitch Ono Bushell. Mitch.
All right, howdy ho. We got the news here, west coast of America. We'll try not to focus too much on the pandemic, the racial issues, class issues, raging wildfires. There's a lot going on. The venues that are doing well, places like Mike, Kappa Ferries, Thunderbolt, are the people that have pivoted and tried to utilize the skills that they have. They're running more of a bottle shop to go thing. They separated their patio with sort of compartments. Some states like Texas and Florida, Nevada, I believe, are allowing indoor dining now. We're expecting to see this in California, Northern California, Los Angeles, San Francisco, closer to November. Study just got released today, says tips are down by 75 to 90%, which is much more relevant when you think about the fact that the minimum wage can be as low as $2.18. So imagine doing a 10-hour shift and then getting taxed going home with $18. It's pretty horrific. A lot of that is being put down to the fact that customer experience in venues is a lot less pleasant. Cleaning protocols are obviously a lot different. Sanitization, detailing, masks, gloves, the whole thing. I'm actually heading out into the field to work a couple of shifts this weekend, so I'll have a much better grasp on it then. In the meantime, stay safe.
And finally, if there's one country that everyone wants to know what's going on, it's Canada. And our Canada correspondent, Alvin Ramchurn, is going to fill you in on what's been going on in Canada.
From Toronto, Canada. For the Dean Callan show, the Canadian correspondent, talking about a little bit about what's happening here in Canada. It's a bit of a hot mess right now. Small bars and small restaurants are open. The city of Toronto gave everyone licenses for patios so they could open up on their patios and put fire heaters out there. It's only going to work for a certain amount of time because typical Canada, 4 seasons in 1 year, it's going to get real cold, and the term is winter is coming now. The government were really great. They gave all small businesses a 75% wage subsidy, and they also gave them a rent subsidy, but the wage subsidy is going to run until January, and the rent subsidy ends at the end of this month. So all of the smaller bars, predominantly the cocktail bars and the restaurants that have probably 60 seats or less, the crunch time is going to be in the next 30 to 60 days to see whether they're still surviving or not. A lot of the bigger guys, a lot of the bigger restaurants, the 300-400 seat restaurants and some of the chains, they're always going to be fine. They're ticking along quite well, but Toronto is in a very precarious stage right now. 400 cases today doesn't seem like a lot, but schools went back and the government is now looking at closing down again, which is going to be a big hit for bars and restaurants. I was in Montreal, I was in Quebec a couple of weekends ago, and the industry there seems to be really booming. Bars and restaurants are at, full capacity with dividers, and they're ticking along. Cocktail bars were busy. The 4 or 5 cocktail bars that I went to, Bar George, Four Seasons, Marcus, Atwater Cocktail Club, Milky Way, they were all full. So they were ticking along. They were burning at quite a high rate, and it was nice to see. Nightclubs and bars were at full occupancy. They were busy in Montreal, and the streets were busy, and it was just a good vibe. Toronto, on the other hand, it's really different here. It's gonna be a matter of time before we see what happens. The Bartenders Benevolent Fund brands chipped in quite heavily for that. I think they raised over $500,000. But again, when you've got hundreds of thousands of bartenders and millions of bartenders and servers out of work right now, $500,000 is a couple of $100 here and there. But it's a good initiative, and they're working towards it. The LCBO is making a lot of money, the SAQ is making a lot of money, but the on-premise side of everything is dead. Brands are bleeding money into, or putting money into, a lot of different avenues. Obviously, social content is running quite high right now, but the industry is hurting. We're not the only ones. You know, right now, if you look above the city of Toronto, or the cloud ash coming in from LA, so it's not a good time to be in it. And you know, good luck to everyone in LA and California, because that place seems to be getting better and then getting worse and getting better. In other news in Canada, ice fishing season is going to be coming back soon, so I would imagine that you'll see some ice fishing and some bears and some other things like that. But for right now, this is Alvin reporting from Canada. Dean, see you soon. Love you, boys.
Cool. Now, if you found this video even remotely interesting, if it's been somewhat entertaining, if you'd like to see more news, and when I say more news, I mean like legit more news. I plan to do a lot more talking on this, but I thought I'd keep it to 2 topics before the first take I did on this was really long. Yeah, if you'd like to see more, like and subscribe. If you've got some suggestions, please let us know. And yeah, we look forward to hearing your thoughts. Stay safe.